whenever I have a question about any type of astrotheology, anything like that, I always reach out to Mehmet because he's so well educated on this particular subject. I consider myself pretty well educated, at least from, I think I have a well sort of rounded education in this particular topic, not necessarily as much depth as you have. So yeah, I was kind of hoping we could just talk about the connection, the basics, just starting with the basics. Like, why do so many people think that you can't even study astrology if you are, part of certain organized religions, and it seems like a lot of it has to do with the Bible.
Do you know what's really interesting, sister? That's so interesting you brought that point up. I have two Bibles at home. I've just got like a little one, and then I've got this big one, which has got like loads of concordances and like definition of words and stuff like that. And I've been looking up the definition of the words in relation to the Bible. And it actually doesn't have a definition for astrology, but it has a definition for astrologers. Mm-hmm. And the actual definition was something along the lines of like a magician or like a kind of a sorcerer. Mm-hmm. So according to the Bible's definition of an astrologer, it is a sorcerer or a magician. So I'm guessing that is probably one of the main reasons why a lot of people who may be studying the Bible and like in mainstream Christianity kind of think that, oh, it's something bad because it's like associated with sorcerers and magicians. Mm-hmm. But even so, just say, even if it was, just say, but we know there's black magic and there's white magic. Mm-hmm. It's all about the intention of your magic and what you're trying to do with it. Because see, when people hear the word magic, they just think of like, I don't know, there's like, what's the word? There's, it has a bad stigma attached to that. There's a bad stigma attached to the word magic. Mm-hmm. But people don't know, like with everything, it's a tool and it just depends on how you use it.
Right. And what about the word magi? The three magi who, were the first to visit Jesus to bring them gifts. At least that's, what the story suggests.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the word magi and magic are connected.
Yeah. Also, probably the word magnetism as well, because the mag, and always Santos says in his presentations that in Sanskrit, mag means to move. So that's what magnet is like. It's like attraction. Do you get what I mean? So anything with MAG probably like is associated with magnetism or, just creating some sort of energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what's interesting? You said about you just brought up about
the three magi.
The three magi. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting you brought up the number 3 because I've been doing a lot of like studying. I've always studied this subject, but in the last few weeks I've been looking at it a bit more and looking at like maritime law and the law in relation to the Bible and like about the whole Holy Trinity thing. And I understand now why the Trinity is actually so important, because in legislation, you need 3 people to make a contract. So for example, if like I've always noticed that in this country, when policemen always come up to you, they never come up to you on their own. There'll always be 2 of them. So, and you're the third party that they need to make the contract with.
Wow. Interesting.
So, like what I'm saying is, as well as the Bible having the astrological and theological and astronomical kind of layers to it, it also has the legal system is like inside it as well, and
Right.
that's why they pay so much um kind of reverence to like the Trinity, and you always see like pyramids with an eye in it,
Mm-hmm.
all that type of stuff. That's all relating to like I said, the third party, and just getting you into like making a contract with the system.
I mean, even just I mean, yeah, the Trinity, the Holy Trinity. What is it? It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection there. But even just, kind of go, that's yeah, I mean, you and I know it's all connected,
Yep.
law, everything, it's all connected, and it all goes back to one. But it's also even just connecting, like we were having that conversation before we started recording about the, the Father, the Son, well, even just Saturn and Jupiter and the Sun too. But
Yeah.
what's Saturn's wife is Rhea?
Rhea, yeah, Rhea.
Area, right?
Or
Space.
Maria, and Maria as well. Mary.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So Saturn would be Joseph, Mary would be the moon, and Jesus would be the sun or Jupiter, depending on, it's both, but
right.
Yeah, I would say, like, because if you look at like the seven heavens, the way they're laid out, you have Saturn at the top, Jupiter, Mars, the sun in the middle, Venus, Mercury, and then the moon at the bottom. So you've got Maria, Mary, Joseph, which is Saturn and the moon, and then you've got the sun in the middle, which is Jesus.
Yeah.
So
the perspective,
you can look at it that way as well. So like that's like the first planet in the list, the middle planet, and the top planet. So you can look at it that way. Yeah, you can look at it as the same thing as dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. You can see it as cardinal, fixed, mutable. Yeah, there's loads of little trinities that are around, even like in law, you have the top, and then you can either be a creditor or a debtor. So what we are all, unless you do the knowledge and then you go from being a fictional entity to a living entity, the aim of the game is to be going from being a debtor to being a creditor, basically, in relation to law and the Trinity. Because that's why, like when you go to sign a document, for example, like just randomly you go buy something, or you'll go and buy a house, for example, and then the bank says, oh, you need to sign this, and they'll put a cross. They'll usually put a cross and they say, I'll sign here. Well, that cross is you crucifying yourself. So that's why you have to write. So what you've now done is you've become the debtor by signing that mortgage or whatever contract it is that you sign with the system. So it's all, and also, like I don't know if you're aware, it's based on like a ship, like.
Yes.
So the creditors would be associated with the passengers, and the debtors would be associated with the crew on board. So the debtors are like the servants of the ship, if that makes sense. Whereas the creditors are like just the passengers who are enjoying the ship.
Right. And that has a lot to do with even us being born and our birth certificate. It's labor, it's actually, it's definitely all connected there, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because unfortunately, not knowing like many of our parents have just signed us over to the government as being a property of the government. Obviously, none of our parents have done this consciously or intentionally, but ultimately that's what they're doing. So yeah, once your name is written in all capitals, you change from being a man or a woman to a person. And then so once you become a person, then you become part of that ship, because I think the word person comes from a parson, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So yeah, so
versus being human.
Yeah, but even the word human, even that's quite a tricky word from my understanding.
Okay.
Because apparently in the Black's Law Dictionary, human also comes under monster.
You're kidding.
No.
How interesting. Okay, I was listening to a lecture from currently my favorite teacher, Judith Hill, and I swear she said something along the lines that monster in the ancient text was actually something that didn't have a lineage, didn't have a bloodline.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But I think hue as the color, like the hue of colors, like we are light. Yeah. And then man, I don't know the etymology behind man.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's right. Human, it means colored men or whatever. But apparently in the Black's Law Dictionary, when you look at a human and then you look at other definitions, the word monster also comes up. But monster comes from moonstar.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, moonstar. Yeah, of course.
Oh,
because,
wow.
like, the reason why, and that's why where you get words like demon also come from the moon. Demon, like deities of the moon.
Oh, I've wondered about that. Because like the word angel actually comes from the word angle, and that was personified by the Catholic Church. And I think it was something around maybe the King James era or something like that. But the word angle actually, is very much associated with angel. And I wondered, where's the demon come from? So it's deity
of the moon, yeah. Because basically, you see how like I mentioned the seven heavens. Well, the first heaven is the moon's heaven. Oh, so wow. Like if you basically can't get past that layer, first chakra, then you're a demon, because you haven't got enough energy to get to the higher realms. So you get pushed back down to the lower realms. So you become a demon.
See, I love that you know
and
this.
Same with a monster as well. Same thing. It's just the moon star. Because obviously the moon is like, although it's obviously, we know all the planets and all the celestial bodies have a double side to them. They have both like positive and negative, because obviously the moon can be very caring and very motherly on the positive side, but on the negative side, it's about like emotions and being very emotional. And it's also because the moon also connects with the mind, because in etymology, I and O are interchangeable. So moon can become min, and that's where we get the word minute from, and etc. So
I always kind of feel like the moon and the mind connection there, it's almost like, I mean, it's so instantaneous. An emotion that is created within us goes to the mind instantly. And then I think Mercury probably gets heavily involved at that point, and then Saturn's trying to bring some practicality to it and that sort of thing. But, going back to this, I just don't want to get too sidetracked from this because I'm looking at my notes right here. I have a couple pages of notes, just astrology and the Bible.
Yep.
Because, actually there was a client a few years ago who, she was such a sweetheart. She was a young lady, and she really wanted to get a reading with me. She really, really wanted to, but she decided not to. Like, we were messaging each other back and forth. She decided not to because it was against her religion. And, it was like, oh gosh, divination, that sort of, for me personally, when I think about this stuff, I'm thinking to myself, I, as an astrologer, I really don't get caught up in trying to make predictions. I just don't. I definitely can look at tendencies and, probabilities and that sort of thing. But my knack in astrology is helping people understand themselves.
Yep, same.
Based on, and I know you're like that too.
Yep.
Just, yeah, okay, you're the emotional one out of your siblings. Well, let's break down the reasons why. And I don't see how that can possibly ever be harmful to anybody. Not only that, but I think you and I also both always focus on the qualities of things and point out, if you're going in this direction, you're overcoming particular challenges in your life, or karmic challenges. But then, oh gosh, where was I going with that? Just the client who decided not to get the reading, she even asked me, she said, can you give me some, why it would be okay to, follow my religion and still get a reading with you? And I was like, this is the best I can tell you. But going back to it, to me, as Mem knows, I was raised Catholic. I went to Bible school, and actually was baptized and went through First Communion. And maybe, Mehmet, you can know this, maybe not. There was a third process. I can't remember. Maybe somebody who's watching, if you leave in the comments, let me know if you know the name of this. But it was around the age of 13, where it was this next step. It was basically like First Communion, but it was like the next step in it. And that's when I said to myself, I don't know if I am really with this particular religion. I don't know if I have given it all my heart. I just don't feel a connection there. And I didn't go through that step. My older siblings did, but me being the youngest, I was the one that was like, nothing against it. I just don't really want to go through with that next step. But I never, ever lost my appreciation for the Bible itself. I felt like it was, in essence, somewhat of a history book. And I was always so I even remember asking my mom when I was a little girl, saying, Mom, wouldn't heaven be up there? Isn't that the star? And I remember her kind of giggling, like, kind of like, no, that's different. That's space. And heaven is, more connected to other things. But now I'm like, no, they're the same thing. They're connected. They're absolutely connected. And in just the top part of my notes here, verse 14, this is from the first page of Genesis. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years.
Yep.
That's straight out of the very beginning of the Bible. And that is astrology. It's for signs and for seasons. And it's very specifically, when we're mentioning seasons, that's very much Western astrology. That's very much using the tropical zodiac, right?
Exactly. And that's so great. Can I just share my screen quickly?
Please.
Yeah, because it's so interesting what you just said, because there's a scripture I have from the Quran.
No.
Which, 1 second, I think I've already got it open. No, I haven't. 1 second. Where is it? Or actually, I think it will be.
By the way, if anybody's watching this from my channel, Mehmet, how do we find you on Facebook? Is that the best way to reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me on Facebook, or you can just email me at consciousmindstv@gmail.com. It will be in the link. In the description below.
Yeah.
And you can get in touch with me that way, or Facebook or Instagram as well at MEMDVG.
And they can schedule a reading with you too, right?
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. Okay.
Can you see my screen?
I certainly can.
Yeah, because this is from the Quran, and it pretty much says exactly the same thing. So it says, it is he who made the sun radiant and the moon a light and determined phases for it, and that you may know the number of years and calculation. God did not create all this except with truth. He details the revelations for people who know. In alternation of night and day, and in what God created in the heavens and the earth, are signs for people who are aware. Those who do not hope to meet us and are content with the worldly life are at ease in it, and those who pay no heed to our signs. So, I mean, it couldn't be any more obvious. It's literally what you just said is the same. And I think really it's from the chapter Jonah in the Quran.
Okay.
I think it's chapter 11.
Okay.
But there's an actual chapter, Erin, in the Quran. It's called the Stars, and it's literally, it's going through the whole chapter is just going through each sign. It's just describing each sign, because it's funny because when it gets to the third one, it talks about twins, and then when it gets to the Scorpio, it talks about like the lust and all this. I can actually share the screen and show it to you if you'd like.
Yeah. Let's see it. That's wild.
Bear with me 1 minute, Erin.
You got it.
Yeah, sorry about that, Erin. What was it? I've lost my train of thought now.
You were gonna pull up the page where it shows the different signs.
That's right. Yep, that's right. So let me share my screen again. So share screen.
And maybe after this, we could talk about maybe why has it been like demonized to look at this? It's clearly, obviously connected to these religions, and not frowned upon other than in the sort of new day and age.
Okay. So that's it. That's it. There's a it's in the 53rd chapter of the Quran.
Okay.
And it's called An-Najm, and in English the translation is the star. And as you go through, and what this is from a book called Esoteric Islam actually, and what the person's done is showing which chapters in which verses in that chapter corresponds to each sign. So for example, if I go to, like I said, Gemini, it tells you here, it says, have you thought upon Al-Alat and Al-Uzal, Al-Manat the third and the other, and yours the males and his females, that indeed were the unfair division. They are but names which ye have named, and ye and your fathers, for which Allah hath revealed no warrant. They follow but guess, and that which themselves desire, and now the guidance of their Lord have come onto them. But the thing is, if you go through each one, you can see that each chapter is about each sign.
Wow.
So for example, when it comes to Scorpio, it says, and it is he who maketh laugh and maketh weep, and it is he who giveth death and giveth life. So obviously we know Scorpio is about transformation, right?
Yep.
And exactly. It is he who createth the two spouses, the male and the female, from the drop of the seed when it poured forth, and he hath ordained the second bringing forth. I mean, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
So like
That's
me
wild.
and you, obviously, because we know astrology and we know what each sign is about.
Yeah. And not only that, at least I shouldn't say all, but to me, it seems like every form of organized religion or even unorganized religion. Yeah, I shouldn't say that, but the ancient religions all kind of have a similar story. And to me, it seems like they all go back to the stars.
Yeah, Erin, you know what's really funny? I was reading this and I had you in mind when I first read it, because because what this guy has done is that he's kind of translated it in his more modern English, whereas in the Quran, it will say the same thing, but in different words.
Right.
And it's funny because with Pisces, all the other ones are long, but the Pisces one is just so short. And it just says, rather prostrate yourselves before Allah and serve him.
Oh,
So basically saying you guys are the gods because you are like the last one. And I've been meaning to tell you this.
oh, funny.
I just kind of like forgot. But as I've got these slides up, do you want me to go through some of them and like explain like the astrological correspondences?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
So let me just go through them and see if I come across anything that's interesting. So obviously, yeah, this is like Saturn. This is like, they walk around the Kaaba 7 times.
Mm-hmm. And that's the black cube of Saturn, right?
Yep, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they do like the different cycles are at different speeds, which are like which connect with like the orbits of the planets.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Of course they do.
Yeah. I think where are we? Yeah, here it says it here. It says here the circular movement of masses around the center Kaaba in an anti-clockwise direction is symbolic of the motion of planets around the sun. The 7 times of the circular motion would represent the 7 visible planets, out of which 3 times faster circumambulatory movement of the Muslims closer to the Kaaba should be 3 times faster. Sorry, let me read that again. It says, it says, out of which 3 times faster circumambulatory movement of the Muslims closer to the Kaaba should be the 3 faster moving planets, Moon, Mercury, and Venus, whilst the 4 times slower movements are the rest of the 4 astrological planets of Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The Quran says the importance of this ritual in the following verses.
Wow.
Which would be this verse here. But let's see what else we've got. Because I've got, like, this would take hours to read, so I can't read it all to you. I'm just going to read. Yeah, so this is really interesting about how, or what people can do as well, as this is up, while they're watching this, they can pause it and read it themselves.
Yep, yeah, that's a good idea.
So, yeah, it's saying that the Muslim prayers and the bows are all based on the phases of the moon.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Of course they are.
So you can see it here. And here it says, astrologically, the moon is a luminary who brings guidance and comforts for humans in the dark. The moon, being the ruler of the water sign Cancer, heralds the emotional well-being and freedom associated with the summer season. Studies have shown that the phases of the moon influences the ebb and flow of the tides, thereby the human emotions. Since 70% of the human body comprises of water, thus the human heart, blood pressure, flow of bodily fluids and emotions are affected by the phases and the movement of the moon. So,
yeah, wow. It's, it's like, I'm constantly going like, oh my gosh, but then I'm like, well, of course, kind of thing. Wow.
And awesome. Here you've got like the astrological archetype, the Islamic tradition, the Muslim archetype, and the Islamic day. So, for example, this would like when you see Saturn is about restriction, right?
Yep.
But this Islamic tradition that it says Sawum, can you see SAWM?
Yeah.
Well, that means fasting.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. So to
So
restrict.
that
Okay.
Islamic tradition, fasting correlates with Saturn, which would make sense because Saturn is about restriction
Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
discipline. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see as well. And then you got the Muslim archetype is Ali, which again makes sense because A and E are interchangeable. So that's L, which is Saturn is also known as El in
Okay.
theology,
Uh-huh.
like the god El. So you see the connection there, and like, like for example, zakat. You see here where it says zakat for Jupiter.
Yep.
Well, that means charity in
Oh, you're
Arabic
kidding. Oh
language.
my gosh, of course.
So
Wow.
what I'm saying, all these are like, it just makes so much sense. Like,
Right.
for
Right.
example, Mars is about war and it corresponds with jihad, and we know about like jihad. We've heard that term a lot
Of
in the
course,
news
yeah.
about the jihadis and going to war. So
More. Yep.
it's all there in the etymology, in the astrology. It's all yeah, and even here, this is from a book called Mystical Astrology by Ibn Arabi, and he explains how like the seven like patriarchs or the seven um like each heaven is kind of corresponds with one of the seven prophets,
Okay.
which corresponds with a planet.
Right.
So
Right.
he explains here Abraham resides in the sky of Saturn, Moses resides in the sky of Jupiter, Aaron in that of Mars, Enoch in that of the Sun, Joseph in that of Venus, Jesus in that of Mercury, which is interesting, but you'll get, but that makes sense, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And
Okay.
then Adam in that of the Moon.
Oh,
Before we
wow.
go to the Jesus thing, Aaron being Mars makes so much sense because A and I are interchangeable. So Aaron would become iron, and iron is the metal of Mars
Oh, gotcha.
in
Okay. Uh-huh.
alchemy.
Uh-huh.
So Aaron ruling Mars or being in the heaven of Mars makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding alchemy and iron being
Yep.
the metal, and Aaron also can mean iron because, like I say, A and I are interchangeable. But what's interesting, you hear it says like Jesus is in that of Mercury, but we know like it as generally like in Christian theology and like in Greek theology, Jesus is kind of more associated with the sun and Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But if you look in the astrological wheel, every sign that is opposite a sign ruled by Jupiter is ruled by Mercury. So, for example, opposite Pisces is Virgo, which
Mm-hmm.
is ruled by Mercury, and
Mm-hmm.
opposite Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter,
Mm-hmm.
is Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury.
Okay.
So I kind of think that maybe Mercury is like almost this mirror image of Jesus.
Uh-huh. Which,
If
yeah,
that
okay.
makes sense, which is maybe why in the Islamic faith they kind of correspond Jesus with Mercury, if that makes sense.
That's a trip. Wow.
You
Wow.
get what I'm saying, don't you? Because
Yep.
obviously
Uh-huh.
it's the opposite.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so there's that side to it. I think I've shown you this before. This is
Yeah.
the first day of the Islamic lunar calendar, where
Right. Right. Like, look at that.
everything was placed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
see the sun in Cancer, which makes a lot of sense, obviously, because the whole moon connection.
Yeah.
But look at
Yeah.
this alignment, man.
Right. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. That's quite
And
the,
Jupiter in Pisces just there on its own.
oh,
That's
wow.
quite interesting. But
Oh, wow.
another thing that's interesting, Erin, in relation to um, the Islamic, like the way they read time, you see
Mhm.
how our day kind of starts at midnight?
Yeah.
The day
Yeah.
starts,
Yeah.
or well, technically it's sunrise, 6 a.m., but we start it at midnight.
Yep.
But I think I have it here somewhere. Yeah, it's here. They explain that it actually starts when the sun sets. So that's why they started. That's why
It's at midnight.
no, it's that
Oh,
the
okay.
sun's just set. It's in the sixth house.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
You get
Okay.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
because they say this is the night and this is the day.
And look at Saturn. That's like Saturn's favorite place to be. He's there to judge, huh?
Yeah. Oh, what? Where? Yeah, just about to set. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's in Leo, which is interesting, which is detrimented.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
It's
also an Islamic month always starts at a new moon.
right.
First day of an Islamic month is always a new moon, and you can see obviously the sun's in Cancer and the moon's in Leo.
Right.
So
right.
it's just, yeah. So literally, as soon as they see that crescent, that little sliver, the first view of it, that's when their month starts.
Wow.
So
Well, yeah, I just feel like if more people understood, and it's interesting too, like even I have family members who are still very, very much a part of going to church and, very much having a very strong relationship with, Jesus and that sort of thing. But even they get it. Even my family members are like, how could this not all be connected to astrology? And not only that, but just going back to the Bible for a minute here, how it's all so similar. Everything, it's
yeah,
all, it goes back to one. Yeah, you wanted to mention
yeah.
this earlier.
All the Abrahamic religions are pretty much like one big gang, just split off into three different things. Like for example, like this is the Jewish tree of life,
Mhm.
and each Sephiroth is a planet basically. So this one at the bottom, which is called Malkuth, that's Earth.
Earth, right.
And then you
Mhm.
got Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So Neptune is
Interesting.
like the top one. So that would be
Right,
like the crystalline sea, for example.
right.
And
Huh.
and this would be like matter. So that's sort of the Neptune. This one, this Sephiroth is called Kepha in this
Okay.
system. This one, this would be source, and this would be like material Earth. This bottom one.
This kind of has to be somewhat of a newer version though, right? Because like even just, Pluto, when was Pluto discovered? Like,
You know what, they say that, but I think Pluto, because I think the concept of like Hades and
mhm,
Osiris and
mhm.
all these concepts have been in like theology before,
Yeah,
or like occultism or mysticism. I
yep.
just think that I don't necessarily know if that's true or not, because
Okay.
we had like Uranus and all these stuff in Greek mythology as well.
Right. The archetype, we
Yeah.
definitely have that. And it's so
So
fun
I don't
too.
know like how true that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is such a fascinating subject for my brain. It just loves to try to understand this stuff. One of my very favorite teachers has this opinion that we just don't know enough about Pluto yet, because it hasn't been around long enough for us to study the full cycle of it, going through these signs. And personally, I feel like somebody knows way more than
Of course, like yeah,
you know?
we think we know all this stuff, but we're just probably barely touching the surface.
Totally,
Did you get
totally.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and
So,
even if we was to just say we knew But in 5 years' time, we knew a much more than we do now. Even then, that probably wouldn't
Mhm.
be enough. Do you get what I mean? Like it's like literally impossible to know it all, but it's just knowing the basics. But what I was going to show you, Erin, in this is just like how you can see like patterns of the zodiac in this. So, for example, we know that all Mars and Venus are always opposite each other in the zodiac, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can see that here, Mars, Venus, there's a diagonal line going. And then same with Mercury and Jupiter, like I was explaining earlier with the Jesus thing. So you can see that, like, you know how I was saying Mercury and Jupiter are always opposite each other in the zodiac?
Yep.
Well, like you can see it here as well. There's a diagonal line from Mercury to Jupiter. Same
Yep.
with Mars and Venus, for example.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that you can see in this as well is like, for example, how particular planets are associated with particular elements. So, for example, Mars and Jupiter, who are next to each other, correlate with fire and water because Mars is Aries and Scorpio, and Jupiter is Pisces and Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
The same with Mercury and Venus, they would correspond with air and earth. Because obviously Venus is Taurus and Libra, and Mercury is Virgo and Gemini. So you see like how this diagram is quite clever when you actually start looking at it, and how they've put things next to each other or opposite each other or diagonally opposite from each other. So once you have a like knowledge of the zodiac, you can start seeing all these things.
All of these puzzle pieces start coming together.
Yeah, I didn't notice this particular puzzle or this particular view. It was a friend of mine called Bublin, who I think you know.
Yeah.
I was speaking with him, and he made me aware of all the lines and all the connections. I was like, wow, and it just made me go into it.
Yeah.
A lot more deeper. But I'll just show you one more thing, and it's in relation to the Bible, and the word, it's just one particular word, and it's the word Lord. Because what people don't realize, like in the Bible, like right at the beginning of Genesis, it refers to God as just God. And then in the second chapter, it refers to him as Lord God.
Okay.
So, but every time that the word Lord is written in the Bible, it's written in all caps. It's in all capital. Yep. Every time Lord is in the Bible, I'll show you. 1 second.
Wow, what a trip.
Just so people don't think that I'm like making it up. If that
Right. And I can't remember the exact, what that means.
Yeah,
but
I'll explain that in a minute. But what I was going to
get our driver's license and stuff. When
it all relates to that. But I don't know here if you can see where it says a definition of Lord is an owner of slaves.
Okay.
You see that at the top?
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, if the Lord was really our God, then why would a Lord want to own slaves?
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So what that's showing is that, well, what it really means, and what I've found out from people who study law as well, that because the Lord is, let me find it in here, and I'll bring it up close, so hopefully you guys can see it. So where my finger is, I don't know if you can see where it's got Lord just below my finger.
Yes. Yep.
You see it's all in capitals?
Yep.
But can you see that the L is bigger than the other ORD? Can you see that?
Yep.
Like that all has a meaning, which I'm going to explain to you now.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, one, the fact that it's all in capitals means that it doesn't make no sense because it's not English. Because if you've got like or normal written English and then you have something that's placed in it with all caps, it's a different language. So it's like mixing Italian English, for example,
Okay.
in the
Okay.
same sentence. You just use a random word from a different language. So because it's written in all caps, it's not in English. It's in Dog Latin.
Okay.
That's one. But when you have a word written in all caps where the first letter is bigger than the other ones, what that means is that the first letter doesn't have no meaning in the word. So then the word Lord, if the first letter doesn't have any meaning, it becomes Ord, O-R-D.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
O-R-D is short for an ordinary who is a magistrate in a court. So the Lord who people are serving in the Bible is just the system.
Wow. So I'm a little confused though. Why would they even keep the L in there if it seems like it would mean something.
Yeah, well, it does, but yeah, it does mean something because L
Yeah.
is the 12th letter in the alphabet, which is
And
L.
isn't that connected to God itself?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's connected to Saturn.
Right. Okay.
Basically, that's connected to Saturn because L,
Mhm.
because 12, sorry, when in numerology, when reduced, is the number 3.
Mhm.
Again, we go to that Trinity 3,
Mhm.
but also in the, the 10 Sephiroth I just showed you,
Yep.
the third Sephiroth is Saturn.
Wow.
So Saturn connects with number 3.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so basically the Lord in the Bible is the Lord in the Old Testament, should I say,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord God is not the God that we think is like the Father and the Mother, like the source. It's
Uh-huh.
not that God, basically, is what I'm saying. So
Wow.
what people are actually serving is the system, because
Yeah.
it's like Lord is anything written in capitals is a title. It's not an actual thing.
Does it also mean it's a corporation?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, oh, there's so much. There's so many things. Like, it's just, but I'm just giving you like the simple things that I can remember, like off the top of my head. So like, yeah, it's just basically, yeah, it's just because the Old Testament, if you read the Old Testament, it's very harsh and very like brutal. Where so like that would be based more on Saturn and like Yahweh and like
Okay.
the more like harsher malefic energy. Whereas the New Testament, which is based on Jesus, is based on the benefic energy of the sun and Jupiter.
Okay.
So
I thought I had, because I've got a few Bibles actually.
Yeah.
Some that I were inherited, some from when I was a kid, but I don't think I have any of them in here. But I did, a friend just lent me this book. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Cracking the Bible Code. No, I haven't. No,
Yeah,
interesting.
I haven't started reading it yet. I was helping a friend move and he was like, I picked this book up and I was like, hey, and he said, yeah, go ahead and borrow it. So as long as you need. So
But yeah, the thing is, Erin, like within all this, as well as like it's all like we always say, it's all interconnected. Like it relates to astrology, it relates to law, it relates to it's like it's all like connected. Like because for example, we know that like the law and the justice system is based a lot on Libra, for example.
Yeah.
Scales and
Yep.
weighing things out and
I think Jupiter also has a lot to do with like natural law. You know, at least going back into my first, it was the American Federation School of Astrologers. They gave us keywords to, you know, relate to celestial bodies, and Jupiter was one of them. Was natural law, as in like the professor, you know, Sagittarius in the ninth house.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Saturn would be more of like the earthly kind of law, if that makes sense, like the legal system, basically.
You know what?
That makes sense. But go ahead, Erin, and I'll.
I was just gonna say, I just was thinking about this the other day, because we're almost into Libra season, you know, and I love, don't get me wrong, I love the sign of Libra. So many of my very, very close friends happen to be a Libra rising. I love the charming energy of it. So I don't think at all that I'm saying anything about the sign of Libra, but I'm always a little sad when it's going into Libra season, because I love summertime. I love summertime, you know, and I'm always like, oh man, here we go. But I was thinking about like, okay, would we be being judged when we move into Libra? Well, as you know, a collective and as individuals? I was just thinking about that. Maybe that's a time where, you know, to look back on how we've been as individuals and, you know, participating in humanitarian acts, that sort of thing. I feel like we might be getting judged by those things up there when we go into Libra season.
Yeah, for sure, because it's like, it's that connects with like the Egyptian story of like, you know, like the Egyptian goddess Mahat, and like she's like an eight, like kind of
the wings, like
the wings, that's all like corresponds with like Libra and
judgment
stuff like that, and like weighing your heart to the scales and all that type of stuff. But obviously, because like Libra is like, it's like it is an ending and a beginning, because you've got, like you said, the end of Virgo, which is the end of summer, and the beginning of like the autumn. So and also because it's at 0 degrees, the equator, it's at like balance point. So
that's exactly.
And that's why it's also, you know, I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen, you know, the Santos wheel with the body in it, and he's got like the colors that go around each sign?
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. I think
I'll show it. I've got it on. Shall I share my screen and show it?
Yeah.
What? Because it will help the point I'm trying to make. So it should be in here somewhere. Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah. I got that book right up here somewhere.
Because if it's interesting, you can see like Libra is like green, and obviously that's the heart chakra. So that's the middle. So like this was the root, and then it goes round, and then it's actually like the opposite way round on here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Pisces,
is right.
But saying that, it's interesting because Aquarius is actually the crown, and then Pisces is almost like, it's like they're almost both red, if that makes sense. Aries and Pisces here. It's like obviously they join into each other. But
I always have a hard time explaining to people. It's opposite. But you know what's interesting is that I don't know if you've ever like taught yourself how to hand calculate a natal chart. I haven't done it for years, but when we do that, when you do all the calculations to actually make a natal chart or any type of, you know, chart, you have to flip it. You have to actually, let's say if it's something, you know, say it's 51 minus 100, then obviously that's 49, but then your true answer, like that, you know, you calculated, okay, this equals 49, but the true answer would be 51. You flip it. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Once I started.
I get what you're saying. But obviously I've never, how can I say, like, obviously you've studied astrology a bit more officially than I have, if that makes sense, by going to like schools and
Sure,
stuff
sure,
like
sure.
that. But
But that don't matter.
I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to that side of it. But
I I think you're more I think you, to me anyway, you seem to know more than a lot of the people who claim to be astrologers. That's my 100% opinion.
it's
But
interesting, Erin. You were saying I was watching. Have you ever watched a guy called D.V.G before?
that sounds familiar, but not
He does a lot of like good astrotheology as well.
okay.
And
Okay.
he was just saying, like, he basically says the same as what me and you say, like, astrology is not about predicting things, it's just about knowing yourself and the world that you live in. I'm like,
Yeah, totally, totally. And not like that, but also like just to me, it seems like I used to go to, therapy. I feel like a lot of people have when I was younger, going through hard times. None of that stuff helped me at all. I mean, sure, meditation and all the, but I feel like the astrology, just understanding myself and being like, oh my God, that's why I'm so emotional. I'm
yeah,
a Pisces Cancer moon. My siblings are Aquariuses. Like they don't, it's just, and just to be able to understand yourself more. I don't understand how, if anybody who, I'm just going to use the term believes in God, I know the term belief, there's all these weird definitions for it, but people who believe in God, why wouldn't your higher entity, why wouldn't God want you to help understand yourself more? Why? Why would that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
well, it just showed in them two bits we read from the Quran and the Bible what God said about the stars.
Right.
He said,
Exactly.
for those who are trapped in the worldly stuff and
Yeah.
in their desires, they won't understand any of that stuff.
Right.
But
Right.
for
Exactly.
those who are aware, will know what those things are.
Right.
Get what
Right.
I'm saying? And like,
And one more thing to mention on that note, I also have had I mixed in with these comments. Like I said, just all of a sudden I was like, why am I getting these messages? I gotta find Jesus. I was like, I'm just fine with Jesus. But one of the comments said something like, rather than getting into your new age stuff. And I was like, I don't put myself in the new age category at all. Like at all, at all. I feel like what I have been studying is extremely ancient, it doesn't get any more ancient than the stuff that we've been studying. I understand why somebody who really doesn't know how I could fit into the new age. You know what I mean by that, right?
yep, yep, yep. Yeah, I mean, even the term new age, like if you
Right.
want to get technical, it's not a new age because time works in cycles. So we've been at this point before. So it's not really a new age. It's just a repeat part of a cycle. Like, for example, you could say that to someone, but I mean,
And the term new age definitely got a bad rep, at
yeah, for
least
sure it has. I mean, like,
really has.
but
But it's
what would
also
you like? What I'm saying is, like, for example, that guy, I was saying about that David Vos, he was saying that like yoga, for example, is new
yeah,
age, and it only
yeah,
came out in the 1930s. He was saying it's not actually an ancient thing. So he was saying that yoga is actually a new age thing. Me, I don't know because as far as I'm aware, it's not a new age thing from
right,
my research and books I've read on chakras and
right.
things like this and whatever. But again, you're always going to have conflicting opinions. So,
Yeah.
but I think whether something is new age or old age or middle age or whatever the age is, if it's good and it helps you and it doesn't harm anyone else, then
Right.
go for it. Do you get what I mean? Like, but
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say astrology is a new age thing. No way.
No, it's not. I just, to me, I was like, oh,
It's too much. There's so much information in regards to it. Like it can't be new, is what I'm like.
no,
Do you get what I mean? It's just there's I mean, if you studied every astrology book, you probably still wouldn't know everything about astrology. Like that's how much
totally. It's
like
endless. It's
it's
literally like infinite. You could go down so many different, categories or topics of
there's
astrology.
just thing as well, like how many different types of astrology there are as well. You have like sidereal, tropical,
Right.
Babylonian, whatever. Like there's just so many different types of astrology. But like
Mhm.
the thing is with like, for example, like you was talking about like the whole Jesus thing, and unfortunately, why what the thing about the Bible is that it's an occulted book.
Yeah.
So like it's it's a book that is full of like the numbers, like for example, like 12 is in the Bible like so many times.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like you got the 12 loaves of bread, the 12 tribes of Israel, Jacob and his 12 sons, the 12 precious stones, etc., etc. Then in Revelation, you've got like the seven churches, which are like the seven chakras or the seven planets.
Mhm.
Um, and also, I was reading something earlier actually. The I think I think again, don't quote me on this. It's one way I've probably got it confused one way around, but I think in Revelation, the number 12 is mentioned 22 times. And we know what the number 22 symbolizes. It's the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's the 22 major arcana in
Mhm.
the tarot.
Yeah.
And obviously, um, it relates to the whole Jehovah or Yod He like in the Kabbalah, because that's the god is called the Tetragrammaton,
Uh-huh.
which is
Uh-huh.
the four name word for God, and obviously 22, 2 and 2 equals 4.
Right. Right.
So that's what that whole like the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Obviously, 2 and 2 correlates with 4, and their God is the four name word for God, or the four, but tetra means 4.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So yeah, it's all like everything's occulted. Like even for example, Erin, I found out recently that in the Quran that the sun is mentioned. Have a guess how many times the sun would be mentioned in the Quran.
I'm clueless.
It's like
Not
the most obvious occult number.
what I got. I don't know what it's 100. I was gonna say 11, but
No,
obviously
no, it's 33.
there. Oh, of course, of course, of course.
So
Because it's 11, 22, and 33. Like those
yeah,
are the master. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. See, he was on the. It was that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously 33 we know relates to Jesus and the
Yeah.
33 vertebrae inside us, and and about the ascension. But also another thing that's interesting is from the first mention of the sun in the Quran to the
Mhm.
last mention, there are 5,778 verses.
Oh
But the
wow.
number 5778
Mhm.
is the temperature surface of the sun.
Oh
So
wow.
they've got that encoded in
Right.
as well. But
Yep. Yep. Yep.
because do you know what? Like I was watching something recently. Sorry, I don't want to like go on too long because I know we're not supposed to be going on for really long.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
try and wrap this
sure.
point up and then yeah. So basically, because a lot of people say, oh, the Quran can't have been written by a man because there's all these like perfect things, like for example, the sun is mentioned 33 times, and there's
Right.
5778 verses from the first mention to the last mention, and 5778 is the temperature surface of the sun. And like, how could man write this? But what I thought to that was, well, if man can discover it, then I'm sure man could be wise enough to write that. So that is a really poor argument to say that it's, again, this is no disrespect to the Quran. I love all those books, the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Torah. They are all books with a lot of holy wisdom. But it doesn't necessarily mean it literally come down from the creator. It just come down from ascended people, or people who had the knowledge, which is why they've encoded all this hidden knowledge within these books. I think it's the same in the Bible as well. The sun might be mentioned 33 times, if I'm not mistaken. But I know in the Quran it's definitely mentioned 33 times.
That'd be really interesting if that's the same with the Bible. That would just be another thing that's like, come on, how is this? I don't know.
I mean, I hope I answered your questions for this show. If there's anything else you would like to ask, or you want
No, I think
to elaborate on, I'll do
I
that.
think we should do this again another time, and we'll, you know, go into another topic. Hey, here's something. Anybody who's watching this, if you want to leave a comment in, you know, whether it's, you know, mine or Mem's channel about something else you want to hear us talk about, let us know, because we love
for sure
to chat, and this is, you know, we love talking about this stuff, and we love it when you guys are interested in hearing what we have to say.
And also, if there's anything we've said that you're not sure about and you want to ask anything, leave a comment and we'll try and get back to you as well.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I'll let you get on with your evening, and
likewise, sister.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you.